Welcome back to the NSHSS Scholars Connect podcast. Today, we're kicking off part one of an inspiring conversation with Fabian DeRozario, Executive Director of the NSHSS Foundation and a global leader and DEI expert. If you've ever felt like your GPA, awards, or resume define your future, this episode is your reminder that you are so much more. Fabian is breaking down the real-world skills that help students thrive: communication, relationship building, and critical thinking. Plus, how to protect your mental health while chasing big goals. Let's jump in. Welcome, everybody, to the NSHSS Scholars Connect podcast. I have the one, the only.
Oh, don't go there. Please.
And I will let you tell us about yourself, because our guest today is one person who has done it all, who has seen it all. And
I'm going to dispute that right away.
is exceptional.
Well, thank you, Angelica. We've had a chance to work together for about a year now, helping to mentor high school students. So let me give you a little bit of context. I think that's you wanted me to offer your viewers some context. And I want to thank all of you for joining this podcast on this particular topic, because my assumption is the topic is of interest to you because you want to improve. And that is really the basis of what has made me who I am. I have been in the work environment for about 40 years now. That's a long time. I've served in higher education roles, adjunct faculty for about 11 years at a couple of universities. I've worked for a nonprofit organization for about 8 years, an international nonprofit. And for the past 20 plus years, I have been in the consulting business. I have my own consulting firm, just a small, modest firm, but I have been blessed with working with almost 220 organizations, large and small, some of them international. And what do? I teach workshops. I facilitate conversations, just like what you're doing today, but obviously in a larger group. I've done a lot of webinars, and ever since COVID hit in 2020. In fact, let me give you some numbers. Since 2020, I have conducted a little over 850 sessions.
Wow.
Whether it's a 1 hour session or a full day seminar, I just count that as a tick, a one. A total exposure to about 56,000 people. So that's what I bring into the conversation today is this exposure to many different ways by which people excel, young and old, globally.
Yes, and you have worked and trained leaders. You are a leadership expert. You're a DEI expert. You have worked with leaders across many industries for decades, as you said. So I really want to pick your brain. What interpersonal skills, we're talking with students today, what interpersonal or leadership skills do you think students consistently underestimate, but you've seen that make the longest term success?
I will offer three. Three is kind of a nice number, right? Two is not quite enough. Four is a little too many. But here's three for you to think about. And Angelica, you've seen me talk about these in our webinar sessions with Success Beyond Academics, right?
Yes.
That the NSHSS does. And by the way, I forgot to mention a new role that I have. I've been hired by the NSHSS, the National Society of High School Scholars, to help provide some strategic direction and consultation for their foundation so that we can build a large fund of dollars to issue scholarships to any student, right? We want to encourage academic achievement and access to education. So that's as an aside. Let me come back to your question. There are three. Number one, communication abilities. And this applies to everybody, anybody, even at my stage in life. Communication is the way by which we convey meaning. If we have an idea, if we have a creative thought, if we want to influence somebody, we have got to be able to communicate effectively. And we're talking not only talking, but also tone of voice and gestures and body language and how we present ourselves. It's also writing skills, depending on the channel that you're using. Are you writing a short report? Are you doing a PowerPoint presentation? Are you writing a short text with your thumbs? Are you writing an email? I'm talking about the whole world of communication capabilities. And my friends, that is a skill that we need to hone ASAP, and it will be a set of skills that will continue to enable your brilliance throughout our lifetime, each of our lifetimes. Number two, the second skill that is so critical is relationship skills. Now, did you see that one coming? My friends, I will tell you that not only in my personal life experiences, but also just seeing thousands of people and talking with thousands of people, the ability to create meaningful relationships is so critical to enable one's success. How you show up with others, how you engage with others, how you communicate with others, how you lift others up, how you influence with people. How do you do the small talk with people that you never met before and you're creating a friendship? But also strategic networking. Who will you connect with that will advocate for you? When you look for a job, when you try to sell something through your business, whether it's a service or something that you made that you want to try to sell, who do you have access to? And when you have access to these people, can you influence them to buy your idea, your things, whatever it is? The ability to connect in a meaningful way with other human beings is a critical skill. Again, it will enable you and your brilliance for the rest of your life. And number three, and I'm going to throw this, I know later on, because you gave me a set of questions to think about. Later, we're going to talk about AI and all that. So this third one is truly unique in addressing what is current and relevant today, and that is the ability to think in a critical manner, the ability to have your own logic and rationale in explaining things, in being creative and connecting the dots, the ability to solve problems using technology as an enabler, but yet having the capability to do some deep thinking. Those three skills, my friends, all of you, communication, relationship skills, and critical thinking skills. These three are lifelong skills that are so important to achieve success.
Absolutely.
I knew you would agree to that.
I could not agree more. As a person who has studied communication one, I'm so glad that that was your first skill, because I feel like it's something that everybody needs. You need, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, you will need to know how to communicate, but not only communicate, but communicate effectively. Making sure that you're getting your point across. I think that that's one of the biggest skills that you can develop. You can develop it while you're young, you know. There's ways to test yourself. There's ways for you to grow in that skill, but it's really about being intentional about how you communicate and learning other people. I think relationships, going into that, that's the best way to learn how to communicate, is learning how, meeting new people and building those relationships and seeing how different people communicate. And when you learn that, you're able to build a bridge. And then, of course, critical thinking, that's one of the best skills that you can have. As a young person, develop it while you're young, while you have the time, because once you're in the real world, it is vital that you know how to think critically. So I love those three.
You know, I want to add something to the relationship thing. I don't think I mentioned this, but it's kind of an obvious thing, but we don't take things for granted, right? And that is, think about, no one person can be fully successful by themselves.
Absolutely.
the fact that I have the NSHSS as a client is through a relationship. The fact that, frankly, here we go. I've had 3 full-time jobs, right? Like regular jobs. I get a university and a nonprofit, and all of these 3 jobs, I never applied for them. It all came through a network, my professional network, friendships, and of course, when we interview for an opportunity, whether you're selling a business or you're selling yourself into a job opportunity, it is going to be a human being that is going to be evaluating us to determine, it's probably going to be a number of people, right? A panel of people that are going to evaluate us to determine if we're a good fit for their culture and for the role. It's all about the connection with the human being. And so those relationships are so important. You do that well, Angelica. Obviously, we've had a chance to work together for a year. We've come to have that chemistry where we always enjoy coming together to have these kinds of conversations.
Yes, and NSHSS going into who we are as an organization is the best way to build relationships.
Absolutely.
Because we are a global organization, members who are listening, you are in the best position, you're in the best place to start building relationships while you're in high school, while you're in college, and then into your professional careers. You're right in the place that you need to be. So thank you for joining. And if you haven't joined, this is the time. But within our members, we have a lot of students who are high achievers. They have high GPAs. They've done well on different testings. So we see that there's a lot of students who tie their identity to that GPA, to that performance aspect. So what is the risk of building your self-worth to just grades?
Grades alone, yeah.
Yeah.
Grades measure performance.
Yes.
They measure your ability to regurgitate information that you've learned. Grades measure performance, but they don't measure potential. Grades are like a thermometer where it measures something, right?
Yeah.
But it does not measure a person's worth. And so it is important for us to see ourselves in a much more holistic way. And here are some things that I would encourage students to think about. The 3 skills that I mentioned, these skills will transcend every aspect of how your performance is going to be measured throughout your life. Throughout your life, you will be in so many different roles where you will have certain points where your measure of performance is being tested, like our tests to get a grade for this course, that course, and all that. It is a measure of your performance. Where people will want you to be a part of their organization, when I want to hire somebody, when an employer recruits somebody into their organization, they're recruiting for potential. Yes, you have to have the foundational knowledge, absolutely. But they are evaluating a person way beyond what their knowledge capabilities are. They're measuring for, I mentioned potential, right? Your communication abilities, your abilities to solve problems, your abilities to connect the dots, creativity, innovation, your fit culturally within the organization in terms of how your ethics, your personality, your relationship building skills, how they fit into the organization. And that I would ask students. I know we're going to dive deeper into this. Students, grades are important because our systems in life today use that very simplistic number to give access. Oh, you're going to have a certain grade to be able to get through this one gateway. So that is important, but don't let that define you. You should be defined by much more holistic human terms. I know we'll get into details in a bit, so I'll stop there.
Yes, it is not defined. It is important. Don't get me wrong. Don't say, oh, grades aren't important. Let me not do my assignments or anything. That's not what we're saying.
And you've got to excel at them.
You have to excel at them.
You want to do well.
Requires you to take it a step further and explore what's actually outside of the classroom so that you have a a well-rounded view of what is expected out in the real world. Because yes, grades measure, they're a great, number to pull out whenever you need to express a number, but I think people pay more attention to how you approach the world. And when you're walking into a room, do you know the social skills? Do you know the life skills in order to get you further? But with all these high achieving students, they're always on the go.
Always on the go.
They're constantly in go mode. So, what are the early warning signs to burnout, and how can students pursue excellence without sacrificing their well being?
Thank you for this very thoughtful question for our time together. There are 5 things, 5 areas students, anyone, can use to assess their mental health. All right. The first, detect the possible sign of a burnout is emotional numbness. What do I mean by that? This is where the work that you do begins to lose its meaning. You're just doing it just to get it done. You sense no joy out of the learning process because you're trying to hit a number. Achievements feel flat. When you do achieve, you don't feel good about it because it feels like you're just checking the box, that emotional numbness. Or being irritable over just small things. Oh, you didn't get that one answer right, and you get overwhelmed just because you didn't complete that answer because you ran out of time in the test. That emotional numbness is one possible indication of a burnout. Number 2, I've got 5. Number 2, the achievement identity fallacy. You knew that one was coming, right? And what does that mean? If I get a B, I'm a failure. Now, this has got very powerful cultural meaning as well, because in some cultures, in some national or ethnic or religious cultures, this getting that A becomes so important to the point that it creates awful amount of stress, and it can destroy a person. So you find yourself, this achievement identity fallacy, if you feel that you are an underachiever because you didn't get something right, or you didn't meet the number that you needed for that one moment in time, that could be an indication of burnout. Number 3, just physical signals. Unable to sleep well. No, not deep sleep, not eating well, always fatigued, having a brain fog, not able to think alertly, extemporaneously, physical fatigue. These are physical signs of possible burnout. How about loss of curiosity? I can certainly relate to that as well. When I feel very stressed over something, I can feel that I'm not able to be innovative. I'm not able to connect the dots. I care more about the outcomes than the learning process itself. I begin to lose joy in the process. And number 5, productivity anxiety. What do I mean by that? Always feeling like you're behind. You're always feeling like you've got to catch up. You can't enjoy downtime. You feel guilty when you're having downtime. Now, these are all signs of burnout. Now, and high achievers, as you said, thank you for crafting the question in this way. High achievers, we celebrate high achievers. That's what we do at the society. But we can be very vulnerable. We can be very vulnerable because we feel that the reward of high achievement is being the smartest one, being the one that can be depended upon. And that can create a lot of stress. So how do we deal with it? All right, I've got areas as well. All right, conveniently 5. I'll be brief on this. It is all around reframing, seeing things in a different way, programming our mind to approach our work, our studies, life in general, with a different frame. I'm going to use a metaphor here. It's like that favorite picture that you have in the house, and then you get a coupon in the mail, maybe through your app, Michael's, they do frames, 75% off frames. and you take advantage of that coupon, right? That's a deal, right? 75 off framing. Oh my goodness. And you take that picture off the wall, you take it to Michael's, 75% off framing now, and you come back home with a new, same picture, but a different frame that you've selected. And you put it back on the same place of the wall. Does the picture not feel different? It's the same picture, right? It's the same you. So this is what I mean by reframing it. And the first one, 5. The first one is shift from outcome-based identity to a growth-based identity. Don't fall into the trap that I am my GPA. Remember, a GPA is just a snapshot in time of your performance. It's not a measure of your potential. And so move forward in reframing and seeing yourself more as someone that focuses on growth and learning. Instead of always thinking, I've got to prove myself, always be thinking, how am I every day improving myself? If I've got to take this course, how I'm going to improve as a result of it. If I do this task, if I'm given this role, if I have a project that I'm going to work on, if I'm going to read a book, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, how do I improve myself by doing this? And instead of just trying to prove yourself. Number 2, define for yourself what is sustainable excellence. Excellence is not a stopping point. It is a process. Go ahead and read that book, Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. All right? I'll just toss that one in there. It's about learning skills. We talked about, we're focusing a lot on skills today. Focus on those life skills that create the ability, the muscle capability to always be growing, improving all the time, right? These are sustainable excellence capabilities. Number 3, let's talk about physical fitness. I know that you know why it is important to exercise. You know, I've got a doctor friend. He's an ICU specialist, a sleep doctor, and he says when it comes to health, physical health, 3 areas of importance. Number 1, good sleep. Number 2, appropriate diet. Number 3, mobility. We've got to make sure that we are physically moving because we all know all the benefits that come with physical fitness, which also connects to and influences our mental fitness, right? Number 4, remember I mentioned something about the loss of curiosity when we're burned out? We can motivate ourselves. We can energize our own sense of curiosity. In fact, schedule yourself to do things that are outside of your typical norms of things that we do, or the habits that we do. Try a new hobby, try a new sport, walk a different path when you're doing your walking exercise, meet different people, volunteer at different events, change things up, right? That interest that is outside of our typical bubble of experiences, that is actually great exercise for the brain. Not only will it give you better mental fitness in growing the bubble of our experiences, but it also expands your network of relationships and just general expansion of knowledge. And finally, number 5, you know that going back to identity, you started by asking why it is important for us to get beyond our identity in grades. Remember, grades is a measure of performance. It is not a measure of potential. So for my 5th reframe, I invite all of us, myself included, yeah? These are lessons of life. Build a multi-dimensional identity. What do I mean by that? Your identity should not hang on just one thing in life. It needs to be multi-dimensional because life has so much diversity. Your charity work, your role as a daughter, a son, a brother, a sister, your family, your schoolwork, your extracurricular activities in school. My niece is the senior editor of her yearbook. And she now likes to do climbing walls, so she's getting athletic as well, along with the friends that she goes to go climb a wall. And then she signed up for a competition, right? So the life should be a variety of things that shapes you as a whole person and not just a one-dimensional individual. You don't have to destroy your well-being to prove your worth. I'll finish with that.
Wow. I'm so glad that you said that this is like life.
It is about life.
Yeah. Because even as an adult, I was a member of NSHSS. I was a high achieving student. And I can tell you that that doesn't just end after you leave high school. You will always be high achieving. You will always want the best quality of work. And burnout, even as an adult, is very real.
Very real.
And all of the suggestions, I was taking note because I was like, yes, physical fitness. I started racquetball because it's like one of the best ways to just, get your mind off of whatever is happening in that moment and like focus on something else. So I really love that you had 5 identifiers of burnout and then 5 solutions.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the best ways to, deal with burnout. If you have something that you're dealing with, then here's a solution for it. So I'm so glad that you had not only 5 identifiers, but also 5 solutions.
That's a wrap on part 1 of our conversation with Fabian DeRozario. We hope that this episode gave you a fresh way to think about success, not just as grades, awards, or achievements, but as skills, relationships, and mindsets that you build along the way. Remember, communication, critical thinking, and well-being are part of your leadership journey too. If this conversation sparks something in you, share it with a friend, and don't miss part 2, where we dive into the human skills that will matter most in an AI-powered future. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Today's episode was brought to you by the National Society of High School Scholars. The intro and outro music was produced by NSHSS Student Ambassador Sage Leggett.